Well, the CCMA will today issue a certificate of non-resolution in the wage dispute between Transnet and the United National Transport Union, UNTU. The move paves the way for Transnet workers affiliated to UNTU to embark on a nationwide strike action. This after a meeting facilitated by the CCMA between the two parties failed to resolve the ongoing wage impasse. UNTU has rejected the company's 17.5% multi-year wage offer already signed by the minority union Satawu. SABC News economics reporter Katlego Legodi has been working on this and joins us now in studio for the latest. Katlego, thanks so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Juliet, and of course to our viewers at home.
So, very disappointing that they haven't managed to agree. UNTU and Satawu haven't actually agreed on it. But yesterday you were interviewing, who were you interviewing yesterday again?
We're speaking to the General Secretary of UNTU, Kobus van Puren.
Yes, and he was saying that 17.5% is not a fair representation of the actual increase if you take it over the years that the increase will come into play, and tax and.
It does look attractive, right? 17.5% in this economy, looking at inflation and how, a whole lot of consumers have been moving. A lot of entities, including public sector entities, have been approaching the bargaining process, trying to come through for their members, the workers, where the economy is concerned. Transnet finds itself in that particular position as well. So we have two major unions there, Satawu and UNTU, and both of them in the previous, agreement or in the previous bargaining, we saw them united, in terms of going to the employer to bargain there. So this time around, we see them divided in terms of how then this process would unfold. Satawu is a minority union. They've already signed, for this 17.5%. It's divided into 3 years. It's 6%, 6%, and 5.5%. And most of them just looking at how then this would play out, as we see also Transnet going through a restructuring. So there's a vertical separation process that is underway, and at the crux of where UNTU would start these negotiations would say, let's put in a clause there, a non-retrenchment clause that would ensure that our members are protected as we see all of these developments playing out. So they wanted to start the negotiations there, but at the same time they are against the multi-term approach to this process. They're saying that workers in the past have been hard done by these processes whereby the employer is concerned. They yesterday tabled a 10%, a 1 year, offer to the employer under the guide of the CCMA to try and bring the employer into, the negotiations. But we see them saying that, from the get-go, the employer approached this process in bad faith, not wanting to really get an understanding of where they're coming from, this being Transnet. They were there as well. Didn't they start off with a 0% increase, saying that they didn't have any money for it? That was PRASA. So you find us still basically same entities that are moving to bargain and try and approach this. But this time around, we see them. It's a process that took place in March. They had 3 meetings already, whereby they were actually, putting various scenarios on the table to try and find each other. But it doesn't look like they found each other. It's really pointing to a strike action at Transnet, something similar to what we saw in 2022. We know very well that the economy is heavily, reliant on trade, commodities, and Transnet would become very important where that is concerned. In 2022, we saw at least a day. It was an 11-day strike action, and each day we hear various of the sectors saying that 1 billion rand is shared. Others even going to a point of saying it's beyond 1 billion rand, looking at the implications of where we found ourselves then. So it was a race to try and avoid that particular repeat of the 2022 strike action, but it doesn't look like, they found each other. The CCMA will today issue that certificate of non-resolution, paving way for the strike action there at Transnet by UNTU members. They are a majority, union there, with about 26,000 of their members that we hear are ready to down tools. So this was the last, attempt, as what UNTU is telling us. There's no way around this one. They would have wanted to avoid this one, but now what follows would be a mandating process whereby they go back to their employers to report, to say that we tried that last attempt at the CCMA, we're not getting joy from the employer.
Yeah.
So, how do we then go about this one? But what we understand, and speaking to them as well this morning, Juliet, is that the picketing rules are already there. They're established, they're in place. So it's just a matter of a yay and nay, and a matter of a date in terms of when do we then go about this one, and when do we down tools. They're protected by that certificate of non-resolution from the CCMA, the bargaining council, and we see them saying that this then would see us trying to exercise our rights in protection of our employees or workers or members. Yeah.
I don't understand, and perhaps you could help me out here. Why didn't Satawu and UNTU sit together first and say, right, this is where we're prepared to go to, this is what we're not prepared to do? Because it doesn't seem that there was a coming together of those two unions before they went to the CCMA.
Yeah, this time around we see them really approaching these processes differently from what we saw in 2022. 2022 they were united to say that we need to push for the employer to really come through for us as workers here. But this time around, and also there's something that has been raised by most of these unions to say that you find the employer then working to in any way divide them. So they wouldn't want to go about these processes divided because it doesn't serve them. When they're divided, then they're not able to consolidate, and they're not speaking in unison. So which is where we find ourselves now. The minority union would see this 6% kick in terms of the 1st of April as per the new financial year. But we'll see that coming through, excluding members of UNTU that have not signed for this offer. Earlier on, speaking to Transnet as well, the spokesperson Ayanda Shezi just giving us a sense of how they're receiving some of these developments. And they're still looking at trying to find each other with UNTU. You know that they are a majority union there. It will be disastrous for a strike action to really take shape within Transnet. They're trying to pick up the pieces. They're starting to become profitable as an entity. So a strike action will dampen all of these processes that we've seen play out there at the entity.
It would be great if we could avert that. Thanks very much for chatting to us. That was Katlego Legodi chatting to us about Satawu and UNTU and that wage dispute with Transnet. Thanks very much.